even where the communists and fascists disagree with the liberals, I mean, like, look, none of the communists believed in the state of nature, but they inherit the value set of the state of nature regardless. Like Marx, Engels, Kropotkin is really guilty of this, because in Kropotkin's day, by the end of the 19th century, the archaeology had all been done. And so in his book, Mutual Aid, he just lays, and Mutual Aid is a great book, actually.
The state of nature, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean.
And what it is an anti-communist book, because in Mutual Aid, he lays out, oh yeah, humans were never in the state of nature. There was no equality or liberty. What there was is essentially groups of tribes, hierarchical organizations.
That's not state of nature. State of nature is not tribes. Tribes were formed. Tribes are a form of society. So that's not nature. That's stupid. Why does he decide that the nature, the natural state,
were struggling to survive against a really hostile wilderness? And they worked together, I mean, mutual aid being the theme of the book, they worked together to make sure that everyone survived and carried on. And it's like, okay, well then why would we be communists? Because what are you talking about? We're not having equality in any way. And they don't really have liberty. What they have is a howling wilderness full of teeth that they're afraid of. So actually order and structure and security would be the things that they would value.
Yes.
Like, you know, from their own.
No, you didn't have order, security, and structure in what? In early survival against the wilderness. What kind of order and structure did you have?
Perspective, the early man did not value.
Yeah, well, what order and structure did the early man have exactly?
Liberty. Liberty was a terrible curse.
It was basically a byword for insecurity.
Why was it a terrible curse? You're just assessing that.
Exactly.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
It was a swift death, right? And
why? What do you mean? Cooperation is part of liberty, isn't it?
This is why in the ancient world it was a punishment. No, you're ostracized, you're exiled from the society. No, good luck. You know, and
that's not liberty.
People don't understand in the modern era, you know, the modern era where you've got one of the great things about capitalism is the anonymization of society, right? As in you can just go to any town in the country and rent a room, right? You can't do that.
Not limited to capitalism. That's not the fact that you can go to any place and rent a room. That's not exactly. You've had inns before capitalism. Leftists are also into race style. I'm gonna watch it after this. Getting an inn in a different place is not a property of capitalism. That's not a great thing about capitalism.
In 2000 BC, if you're not a member of that tribe, they're not taking you in. Why?
How do you know? First of all, second of all, when does Carl believe that capitalism was invented? That he thinks we have to go to 2000 BC. When does Carl think that capitalism begins?
Why would they take you in? You're on your own. Good luck, you know. And so the issues that these men would have had are very different to the issues that the 19th century sort of communists had. But the communists at no point challenge the assumptions of liberty and equality. They inherit the liberal assumptions, the liberal values, even while rejecting the way that they came to these values. And for some reason,
what do you mean? I don't know what that means.
None of them said, well, is this really what we're after then? You know, at what point do we admit that, okay, if blank slate isn't true, if the state of nature isn't true?
Nobody says that nature is not real. Who says that? I don't think Carl read anything, any of Marx or Engels, anything, actually.
Where are we going? And yet Marx and Engels uncritically adopt these, Kropotkin uncritically adopts these. I mean, Rawls uncritically adopts the values. And so,
what values? What the values do they uncritically adopt? Again, you're being vague on purpose.
The values are built on a false mythology.
What is the false mythology? Yeah, I'm checking up on Carl Sargs. Like, this is ridiculous. Hello, Zoshelek.
Then they're not going to produce something that is true, real, and good.
What does that mean? It's not going to produce anything that is good, real, and true, real, and good. What does that mean? I have no clue what that means.
They're going to produce something artificial. They're going to produce something.
Everything that surrounds us is artificial. Living in an apartment is artificial. Using a cell phone is artificial. Using the internet is artificial. What does that even mean?
Something that is opposed to what humans actually need.
What are the things that are opposed to what humans actually need? What humans need, by laws of nature, humans need to have a boss that takes most of what they produce? What the fuck?
And as opposed to human nature. And this is where we have found ourselves now. And so we've gone through
That makes no sense whatsoever. That makes absolutely no sense.
20th century and the sort of slow normalization of communism and liberalism into whatever we call it now. I don't even know what we want to call what's happening now.
I don't even know if Carl knows. I don't even know if Sargon of Akkad knows what communism is. It's like John Doyle that said that multipolar world order is just communism with extra steps. It's just complete nonsense, complete brain rot, complete, like a bunch of vague slogans that don't really mean anything if you try to analyze them.
The managed command economy, right? Where like the values that underpin these.
I thought we wanted structure. A managed command economy is the pinnacle of structure, isn't it? So do you want structure and hierarchy, or do you not want structure and hierarchy? Sargon of Akkad.
Expressly liberal values, because what they're trying to do is create freedom in a certain compass and equality to a certain degree. So, for example,
yeah, please, for the love of God, give us an example, because I don't know. I've been waiting for an example.
Dan did a video the other day.
Who's
talking
Dan?
About how in Britain, the average wages
Who the
are
hell
somewhere
is
between
Dan?
30 and 50,000.
You mean you're talking about Dan Tubbs at the Lotus Eaters?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
He's an economist, and this is the sort of thing that fascinates him. That the average income is somewhere between 30 and 50,000, because if you're above that, obviously your taxes start really rising to the point where it's just not worth earning any money. But if you're below that, even if you're working, the government
Yes,
tops
of course. Yeah, it's not worth earning any money. Okay, of course. Yeah, Sargon of Akkad. That makes perfect sense. Okay.
up your wages. So you're in this band. So you're not equal, but you are very equal in a historic sort of sense. And
What?
this is a sort of anti-freedom position. So
Okay, what is the anti-freedom position again? He's making no sense whatsoever.
you are free, and like the interpretations of freedom, of course, change. But you're free to.
If interpretations of freedom change, then how can you call it anti-freedom? By what definition of freedom is that anti-freedom? If those things change,
engage in any kind of licentiousness you want, practically, but you're not free to earn more money than your neighbor, right? Like you're not really free to do that because the state will intercede.
that's never. There is no society in which that has ever been a thing. That you have no right to earn more than your neighbor because the state will intercede. What the fuck? That's not been a thing, even in the Soviet bloc. Okay, which he is alluding to here. That's not been the case in the Soviet Union. That nobody could earn more than anybody else. That's not been the case certainly in quote unquote communist Poland. What the fuck is he talking about? What country is he talking about where whenever somebody earned more than anybody else, the state would intercede? What country is he talking about? What reality is he talking about? I can name no country in which such a thing even existed. What the fuck? I'm pretty sure that was not the case in Soviet Ukraine as well. Whereas if anybody earned more than anybody else, the state would intercede. That makes no sense. Vladimir says, the white people saying, I guess, everything quote unquote good that exists in this world has been produced or created by the white man. Ironically, by the way, this is what the internet right believes in. Yeah, I know. It's ludicrously stupid.
So you've got and another thing as well with the concept of universal human rights, right? So this is
All you have to do is to have a British accent and a suit and spout complete nonsense. And people are going to be like, oh, yeah, you're smart. You're a smart boy, Sargon of Akkad. This is brilliant. This is, I don't know, philosophy or whatever.
The liberal innovation that has dramatic downstream consequences that no one really thought about. So
What?
The rights of Englishmen make a lot of sense. They're historically contingent. They're fixed. You can point to the people that they are residual in and why those people have them.
And they've been historically negotiated.
They are a product of historical negotiation. And
Everything is the product of historical negotiation. This makes no sense at all. How do we define what is and isn't a product of history or historical negotiation, quote unquote? Hello, Big Jerry. Thank you. Yes, it will be great. Make streaming great again. Also, how did you find the stream, Big Jerry FM8WQ? Did you find it via the President Sunday Discord? That makes no sense what he's saying. It's just gibberish. It's just complete and utter gibberish. Oh, I've decided that everything that I like is historical good and rooted in some sort of negotiation, but everything that I do not like is just bad, artificial, and should be done away with, and is completely actually divorced from history and nature and whatever else buzzword I can think of. It's all,
And they make a lot of sense.
Yeah, what I like makes sense, and what I don't like makes no sense, of course. Right. You can just say anything. You can just start saying complete bullshit, and the British accent, I guess, will pull him through.
A lot of people have been envious of, right? Because, why wouldn't you be? If you're in 17th century France, yeah, look at the English. Why do they get to have habeas corpus? Why do they get to have jury trials? Why do they get to have what was at the time an incredible amount of political freedom? Why is it that the British Empire was mostly a private endeavor?
Okay, like incredible freedom for whom in England?
That's not possible in most other times and places. Look at the Roman Empire. No, it's the state. It's Pompey conquering the East. Well, he's part of the triumvirate.
Hold on.
That's not possible in most other times and places.
17th century Roman Empire?
Look at the Roman Empire. No, it's the state. It's Pompey conquering the East. Well, he's part of the triumvirate. It's Julius Caesar conquering Gaul.
Even our manner of conquest was permissive.
Incredibly. Right? It was literally... you can find now...
Do your thing, lads. Yeah.
You can find now, newspaper articles, adverts, wanted, 200 strong men, high risk of death, but maybe great glory and treasure.
Yeah.
And it's just because you were free, you could go and do this. And it was a very enviable...
What the fuck? Does Sargon of Akkad live under the impression that mercenaries don't exist now? Does Sargon of Akkad know that that's a thing? What does he think? That people cannot now volunteer to... What? That makes no sense. Come on.
Thing, right, to people in France who are in a strictly hierarchical, almost caste system. And so it's just okay, well, yeah, I would like what they have. But you have...
Vladimir says, I assume that Sargon knows that before the Empire, Rome was a republic, and that Caesar, he doesn't care about shit like that. I doubt he knows even the history of... he knows just buzzwords and some key events, maybe. I will grant him. Maybe he knows some key events, but that's it.
You have to rationalize how you're going to get there, right? And you can't say, well, I'd like the rights of Englishmen, please, because they'd be like, well, you're a Frenchman.
Yeah,
you're a German.
It's not a simple copy and paste job.
No, it's not. And the abstraction of liberalism away from the rights of Englishmen into the universal right to man.
Yeah, totally agree with this, yeah.
This is a powerful thing, right? And this is what Burke puts in his reflection on the revolution. He's like, in the principle of liberty, I see a powerful spirit.
I do not believe that Sargon of Akkad reads books, okay? I do not buy for a moment that Sargon of Akkad actually reads books.
And I don't know where it goes.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
And he was very wise to be nervous about that, because of course then it leads into the French Revolution, which he predicts almost word for word in advance of it. And so what you have is the desire for a certain outcome being applied to a society that doesn't have the historic infrastructure to get there.
Yeah.
And this
What
is
the fuck is a historic infrastructure?
the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution and the Chinese Revolution all take on the same sort of aspects. Oh no, these are levelers. These are leveling revolutions, because none of the society brought us to the point of English liberty. And so, okay, well, we've just got to get rid of all of this then. And it's like, okay, but that's insane. That's a hugely damaging thing. And what it does is it makes the government the guarantor of your rights. That's not how it works. We're against the government. The government is the infringer of our rights. But now the government has found itself as the guarantor of our rights.
This was the same in England. That was no different in England.
It's like, okay, that's kind of like an abusive relationship.
Yeah,
they
become a form of state largesse rather
What does
than...
he think that in England the state was not the guarantor of rights.
Something natural or even inherited.
Exactly. It should be
Yes.
local communities resisting central authority. And that's what it would be if it wasn't for the way that the modern state operates. Because the modern state says, okay, well, yeah, universal rights for everyone under every condition all the time. And I'm going to bring in a bunch of foreigners. They have the same
What the? Oh my God! Of course, I almost forgot that Sargon of Akkad is a white supremacist. Thank you for reminding me, Carl.
rights as you. And now I have to defend them against you because your majority demographic power is actually infringing on their right to religion or on their right to free speech or whatever, their right to not be discriminated against, all sorts of things. And so now the government has actually positioned itself as the defender of these minorities against the majority. And this is why you've got...
Yeah, that's called democracy. I'm sorry that you hate democracy, Sargon of Akkad. I'm sorry that you do not understand that actually it is the role of the government within democracy to protect minorities so that they don't get squashed. Yeah, I'm apologies that you're not the big fan.
12,000 people a year processed through the courts or whatever, however many it is, in defense of a minority. So the government...
Apologies that in a proper democracy, actually LGBT people should have rights. Rasul Kafka says the average people went out in 2024 summer to push back against far-right racists after a week's riot. Yeah, but listen, it was all enforced to you by the government because it's all against nature. Because in nature, the tribes were fighting against the hostile environment, and nobody cared about liberty because liberty is not against nature. And it's not based on historical negotiation, which is actually a whole bunch of nonsense and doesn't mean anything. But that's Sargon of Akkad for you. Understood with minorities, not the government. Police has done nothing for you. It was people protecting their neighbors. I'm pretty sure it was actually similar in Poland. There was suddenly this move against many immigrants in Poland, and suddenly a lot of people said, hey, you know that this person that you're trying to discriminate against, he's my, roommate, he's my friend at work, he's my whatever else, we became friends, we became close, and if you mess with him, then you're kind of messing with me as well. So, but it's easy to lock everything into a bunch of buzzwords saying, oh yeah, naturally people are in the tribes that want to be isolated and fight against the hostile environment. And if you're in the tribe, you're not gonna let any outsiders in because they're outsiders, and I just proclaim it. And then came in the state that wanted to copy our great British way of life, and the state enforces everything and destroys everything and wants to bring in those foreigners while enforcing rights on everybody. But no, of course, England was totally different, and it was fighting against the government, and it was local, communities fighting against the centralized government. None of that was the case in England.
It has actually kind of flipped itself into being essentially kind of...
like human rights become oppressive. That is complete nonsensical statement on its face.
The victim of the wider society. And this whole thing is only possible through liberal philosophy.
Yeah. Well, rights understood as a kind of generous state guaranteed, state underwritten largesse.
Like Sargon of Akkad just hates democracy. He just hates the idea of democracy, of the fact that any minority could have any right.
Necessarily burden the state, and by extension burden in our back to front societies the people who are forced to subsidize the state in its activities, many of which actually are not in our interests.
Hold on, I have to listen to this again because there's a very prevailing lie in this
necessarily. Yeah. Well, rights understood as a kind of generous state guaranteed, state underwritten largesse. Necessarily burden the state, and by extension.
Why does it necessarily burden the state? In what way?
burden in our back to front societies, the people who are forced to subsidize the state in
Okay,
its
what's the burden exactly?
in its activities, many of which actually are not in our interests.
What are the activities that are? I hate this vague bullshit. I hate it so much. What exactly is this cost? What exactly is this pressure? What are the activities that are in nobody's interest? What are those things? Be specific. So much Karasu says, so much anti-state. Do these brainless criticize ICE due to massive? No, they will not criticize. ICE would be in their mind like the correct thing, okay? ICE would be finally the state respecting the tribe or whatever. Rasul Kafka says it is spending more than some countries' army. Apparently some people in Canada are pro-ICE for some weird reason.
But just a quick thing on
Yeah,
that.
go on.
What it does, though, is it conceptually renders the people being oppressed by the state as the oppressors of the people the state is trying to protect. Right? So it creates a demented view. Of the state takes on a demented view of its own responsibilities.
Oh,
What the fuck do you mean by that?
yes.
So the state is
Can
there.
we get an example?
No, I have to, like, we saw this at Southport where Keir Starmer was like, right, 24-hour courts, you are going down for this. And it's like, well, what happened? Well, these people have had foreigners imposed on them, and those foreigners are killing their children.
Yes.
What the fuck do you mean foreigners imposed on them? It's called the freedom of movement. Those foreigners killed their children? What foreigners? Whose children? Who imposed who on what the fuck? Again, vague bullshit. This does not mean anything.
The state's choice, this was a matter of government policy to inflict
What are we talking about? I hate this so much. Some vague body imposed some foreigners, I don't know who, on whom, and those magical foreigners, I don't know from where, killed someone's children. Vladimir says, thank you, Lucy, for introducing Sargon to me once again. I watched him once ago when he was arguing about Warhammer 40k and why it's actually good to be ruled by one benevolent leader with an iron fist. Ah, yes, of course. Because people take Warhammer 40k and don't realize that it's satire and actually look at it and think, oh yeah, that's actually how we should organize, unironically. This is actually how societies should organize, and it's good, and it's perfectly fine. This makes no sense, especially considering that there is huge evidence of the fact that actually immigrants are a huge benefit to societies on many levels. Karasul Kafka says, also he forgets to tell that these far-right goons in response to a person murdered someone wanted to burn down refugee house. Oh yeah. This is just nonsense. This is just, in all of these cases, and at least in Poland, whenever there's fear-mongering about immigrants or refugees murdering someone, the facts of the matter prove to be completely different than presented.
horror on the people of England, and the state accuses them of being the oppressors of the people who are victimizing them. And so it's a demented.
Yeah, because foreigners, when anybody comes to a country, they actually become oppressors and they kill the children of the people that are already living in the country, naturally, of course. And then the country steps in and protects the evil immigrants who are oppressors, but turns them into victims. That makes perfect sense, Sargon of Akkad, in a white supremacist's mind.
Interpretation of what governance is, and this is only possible through the liberal view of human rights.
Rasul Kafka says, I was out in the counter protests of the 2024 summer when the far right announced attacks on places helping refugees. Yeah, because, it's all bad, it's all inversed, and actually human rights are oppressive somehow. It's just demographics as a weapon. We could watch one more Sargon because these are short. That was just 9 minutes. Okay. Demographics as a weapon. How about this? We want to watch this? One more Sargon, because before I move on to the next content creator, Rasul Kafka says, in the street, non-English were afraid. Yeah, of course. That has been increasingly the case in Poland as well, where people that are foreigners were being more and more nervous, because of the anti-immigration sentiment. But there has been a counter-protest, thank God. There are many people who were protesting against attacks on foreigners because not everybody's a lunatic. I should probably. Kara said, the local street, the Polish shopkeeper called her husband and someone else to escort her back. Tamil shops owners were looking out nervous. Yeah, because it's easy to weaponize foreigners. It's the easiest thing in the world, you know? It's the easiest thing, especially for a far-right government, to say, oh, these people are foreigners. They're outside of our tribe. And it's natural, okay? It's the natural state of things for us to have our tribe and to shun the outsiders who are not part of our tribe or some nonsense like that. Krasu Kafka says, this is our place. This is the community, including the Polish shop, the Sri Lankan shop, and so on. Most of these far-righters who were out coming from places where they see no immigrants at all. Oh yeah, that is also a thing. A lot of these people, a lot of these far-righters, that's especially comical in places like Japan, where politicians try to adopt the anti-immigration rhetoric when immigration is not even that huge of a thing in Japan. Then they come into places where the community includes immigrants. I mean, not to go to the biggest example of all, right? Not to go into the biggest example of this kind of scapegoating, but that was actually effectively the case in Germany, right? That was effectively the case in Nazi Germany, where the Nazi party blamed Jewish people for everything, said that they were the blight that needed to be taken care of, when in the entirety of Germany, I think Jewish people constituted a small percentage of the population, about 500,000 people. What was the population of Nazi Germany in 1933? Let's see, 1933 population of Germany. 67 million. There you go, approximately 67 million people. And 500,000 were Jewish. And yet they were framed as the biggest threat to everybody ever. And that is the same with immigrants. Like, you have places where you basically have no immigrants, where you will never encounter an immigrant, you will never encounter a foreigner. But the far-righters will say, oh, there's still a big problem. And then they will go to the places where the immigrants exist and attack them. That is the modus operandi that is present all around the world, because it works, unfortunately, to some extent. Demographics is a weapon.
It has become apparent that both the left and the right now agree that demography is destiny.
No, what the fuck does that even... Oh my god. Demography is that is such an empty slogan.
And that one side...
Also, no, the left does not agree with that. The centrist is not the left. I hate this very dishonest framing that anything that is not the far right is automatically the left.
The partisan political divide is using demographics as a weapon to defeat the other. For decades now, the West has been subjected to waves of mass immigration as millions of people from non-Western...
Yeah, guess what? Waves of mass immigration have been a thing throughout history. Sargon of Akkad likes to speak of the natural state of things. Sargon of Akkad loves to speak of history, of historical trends, of historical negotiation. But guess what? You know what was a constant thing throughout history? Mass immigration, mass movements of people. Whole groups of people would move from one place to the other to find a better life, to do something different. That is why Europe at the beginning of World War I was a mixture of all kinds of people all over the place. Because historically speaking, people moved or were moved. The mass movement of people is not a new phenomenon. It has been a thing throughout history. That you had just a whole group of... You had Germans living all over Europe. You had Italians living all over Europe. You had many different peoples that just moved all over the place. That was a thing. Like, suddenly far-righters are acting as if throughout history people did not move. This is ridiculous. Like, this is treated as some new phenomenon that needs to be stopped. Harasso Kafka says, UK is a great example. Hell, Nigel Farage's own families from immigrants who Cuentos escaping from France. And yes, German settlers were around in river areas. Wood trading was important. Yeah. It's not a new phenomenon, which is why a lot of Europe was multilingual, which is why also Jewish people existed as kind of a glue that connected different groups within countries, because a lot of Jewish people were multilingual and they acted as in-betweeners between different groups of people that were not necessarily multilingual, and facilitated contact, trade, and what have you. Like countries and societies were never as simple, like clear cut as people as Sargon of Akkad would like to say. Oh, countries were just like tribes. Everybody spoke the same language. It was all divided. Nobody moved around. Immigration was not a thing, and every place was just mono-ethnic. The whole idea of mono-ethnicity was born a lot within the nation state, right? That is why you have even the term ethnic cleansing, because there were a lot of different ethnicities within countries, and the state decided this nation is this ethnicity, and if we want a pure nation within our nation state, we have to purge it from everybody else. Hold on, Karasu just gave a link. Let's see what we have here.
You are looking at Julian's pronunciation guide, where we look at how to pronounce better some of the most mispronounced words in the world, like this other curious word. But how do you say what you're looking for today? Let's learn this word from French, from France, the French pronunciation.
Hello, lettuce.
Huguenot. The H is silent, so do not pronounce it. Huguenot.
Huguenot. Okay. Huguenot. Perfect. Lettuce. It's been so long. Welcome. Lettuce. Lettuce. Since it's been a long time, I'll take a few seconds to explain something, okay? Hello. I've divided my YouTube thing into 3 different channels now, okay? My YouTube activity is divided now into 3 different channels. This is the channel when I do... Sorry, I didn't have a good time sincerely coming out. It's okay. I'm glad you're here now, so I can make the announcement to you. This channel is for slop and gaming now, okay? Which is why I'm watching an idiot like Sargon of Akkad. And I have a separate channel called the Lucy Haze Network, okay? And that's for politics. That's basically for the coverage of politics, the coverage of news, etc. That's the Lucy Haze Network channel, which I'm going to paste here, okay? And I've also started a whole new channel for documentaries, interviews, all the stuff that I do as a journalist in Ukraine. Which, by the way, I've taken part in a very nice event just yesterday. It was a press event about 14 children and their stories, how life has affected them, that they have not been broken by the war, but rather they have transformed into stronger people. And I've managed to get a few mini interviews. I've managed to secure a few interviews. Oh God, this is going to be great. We're going to have a conversation on stream with an international human rights expert that I managed to get her to nab her during the meeting and said, hey, would you like to talk to me on the internet in a live stream setting? And she said, oh yeah, of course. So that's gonna be. And I'm also going to debate Maryland with a person. Karatsu Kafka said, Hungary is also full of immigration historically. Buddha had been at times dominantly German speaking. Yeah, it's just the idea that mass movement of peoples has not been a thing historically is just ridiculous. The place I lived in, the island, had a lot of South Slavic people, and including some Greek with churches reflecting this first time they settled there due escaping from the Ottoman Empire. Yeah, of course that is also the case for Poland, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Like you had Tatars, you still have Tatars in Poland right now. You still have Armenians, which are called Ormianie in Polish. So you have Armenians, the Polish Armenians. You have the Rushins, which consider themselves a whole nation. They are called Łemkowie in Poland. You have the Silesians, which the Polish government refuses to accept as a separate people, but I do. Well, the Polish government actually does accept them as a separate people. Our current president does not. Our current president has recently vetoed a bill that would recognize Silesian as a separate language rather than just a dialect of Polish, which I think it's a very bad thing. But that's a whole different topic, okay? That's Poland basically acting like Russia and trying to squash the rights of a minority group, not accepting them as a separate people. That's a whole different, I should probably do a whole thing about it soon.
Western countries were either legally allowed to settle in Western countries or broken via illicit means. This has been done without a...
Oh my God. This is from 2 weeks ago, but I feel like I'm in 2016 all over again.
Democratic mandate, and was justified by appeals to the economy. We need migrants for growth. We need migrants to run our services. We need migrants to pay for the pensions.
No, there are many different arguments that I could make for immigrants, actually, that are very much outside of economy. It's just that you would not accept them. You would not accept the arguments that are outside of economy. This is why people make those arguments, because they're trying to appeal to very cold calculus of money, because we live in a capitalistic world. The first go-to argument is, immigrants make money, they improve the economy. But there are many, many arguments for immigration that go well beyond just economy. Like even the cultural enrichment is the argument that would be my go-to argument. If you have people from different places from the world, they bring with them the richness of their culture. They bring with them the freshness and newness. They bring with them their food, many different things, right? It's like the fact that my friend has a wonderful restaurant right now. That's Vietnamese food, right? It's not food that is native to Poland, and it enriches Poland. The fact that a very robust Vietnamese community exists in Poland enriches Poland. That is an argument that is outside of economy, outside of immigrants being needed to pay for the pensions or work, right? I know that far righters hated to hear that, but diversity is actually quite good and enriches us in many different ways. If you have access to many different kinds of things, it is always better than only having one type of thing available to you, in my opinion. Karasogavka says, we did not have any Tatars settled. We had Kuman settled around that time, pushed by Mongols. Kuman also Turkic. Actually, I had a very interesting guest today. I'm still in Kyiv. I've had a very interesting guest. Somebody asked me to take care of a person for 2 hours today, and that person is Hungarian. So I had a Hungarian guest today at the apartment. Says, nations are not really communities. It is a constructed identity with people you don't even encounter. The immigrant next neighbor are your community. Yeah, exactly. Nations are things that were created. Nations, actually, the act of creating nation states crushed local identity, right? A thing such as a local identity was very much crushed by the creation of a nation state, because suddenly you could not have many differences within the language. You had to create one standard language, for example, for a nation. You cannot have too much diversity in that. So you have to flatten the language to one standard one, that is in education, etc. There are many aspects to this, but the local culture has been very much squashed by the creation of a nation state. Yeah. That is why historians will often say that before the nation state, there was no such thing as a national identity. There was no such thing as a nation as we know it today, that people had very local identities. People would not say, I'm Polish. Let's use Poland as an example. People would not say, I'm Polish. People would say, oh, I belong to this village. Oh, I belong to this church. I belong to this community. I belong to this general area. They would not identify like I'm Polish, you know. I'm part of the Polish nation or whatever. Incub says, yeah, France basically wiped out every minority language they had pre-revolution. Yeah, and I think that's a shame. And if we were really talking about artificial things, which I would argue that the whole distinction between natural and unnatural is stupid to begin with, then we have to recognize that the rise of the nation state has eliminated actual communities, yes. And also capitalism is a big factor in eliminating local community ties while we're at it. Knowing your neighbors, being friends with your neighbors. As Krasul Kafka says, in Hungary, for example, they mention Kuman, Kun, and Yasok, an Iranian-related ethnic group close to Ossetians, had in distinct communities. Yeah, like it's in the 19th century disappeared as an autonomous political entity. Like Poland is right now, there is this whole thing. I did a segment on it recently, about the Silesian identity, right? That there are people in Poland that identify as separate people. They consider their language as separate, but the Polish president vetoed the bill that would ensure that their culture, language would be enshrined in education, because the Polish president argues that we cannot foster separatist movement. Okay, so that is of course speaking nonsense, and we're just 39 seconds into the video and already we've had a long discussion as to why what he is saying is complete nonsense.
However, that experiment has now been run and the numbers are in. There's been no...
What experiment? Again, I've said it before, I say it now. Big movements of people across the continent and across the world has been a thing forever. What experiment? What exactly is the experiment?
Relation between mass uncontrolled immigration and economic prosperity.
Like, immigration has not been controlled throughout history. Controlling immigration is, again, an invention of the nation state. The border patrols as we understand them now, immigration control, that's a thing that was invented for the nation state.
Indeed, it seems that the immigration of non-Western immigrants is just a net drain on the economy and is instead itself what is...
That's not true. That's not true at all. We can easily check it. I've checked. I've had a viewer at some point that... no, that was not a viewer. I remember arguing with somebody on Discord, I think, that said that Poland did not benefit from immigration. So I gave Ukrainian people as an example, that they are actually great for the economy. And then they said, okay, what about those people from other countries, from Africa, etc.? And then I've checked, oh wait, not a super great benefit, but generally speaking, people from Africa that settle in Poland are a benefit to the economy, not a drain on the economy. So what's going on? What's going on? It's completely it's a completely nonsensical narrative. It's basically a narrative that says, oh, white immigrants, they're gonna be okay for the economy. Non-white immigrants, or they're gonna be a drain on the economy. Oh yeah. Well, a lot of the problems that exist all over the world are a direct product of colonization. Listen, I'm so sad that you were not here for, I think, my stream yesterday when I've watched a John Doyle video. Oh yeah, John Doyle. You remember John Doyle, that YouTuber? John Doyle praising a Marco Rubio speech in which Marco Rubio says that Europe was the best when it colonized everybody, that colonization was great, and it was very sad that it stopped colonizing. And then John Doyle commented on the speech and said some really stupid completely brainless things. I think the stupidest thing that John Doyle said throughout his whole completely illiterate video is when he said, a multipolar world order is just communism with extra steps. What John Doyle said was so stupid throughout the video that the first comment said, dude, you're getting paid for this? This is stupid. John Doe's own viewers were like, hold on, that's just, you're being just stupid. Yeah.
Holding back economic growth rather than promoting it. Just how the world's top economists could have managed to get this so completely back to front is a discussion.
So that's not true at all. It's not true that immigrants from outside of Europe are a drain on economy. This is completely not true.
For another time, because instead of
I know it serves a rhetoric. I know it's non-white equals drain, white equals prosperity and growth. Of course, it's so easy to construct such a bizarre and stupid narrative.
This argument, the advocates of mass immigration have simply moved past it to make moral and ideological arguments that, in fact, Westerners really have no prejudicial right to their own countries over and above.
What the fuck is a prejudicial right? No, they don't. Actually, nobody has the right to a country. There's no such thing as an inherent prejudicial right to a country. It's just stupid.
Anyone else. As Michelle Wu, the current Democrat mayor of Boston, put it,
every person, every human being has the legal right to come to the United States and seek asylum or shelter.
If everyone...
Yeah, what's wrong with that statement? Again, like as a Polish person, when somebody from, I don't know, be it Africa, Asia, or wherever else comes to Poland, right, and says, okay, I just want to live here, right? I just want to live here, and I'm not completely sure why people would want to move and live in Poland, but that's completely different subject. But if somebody decides, okay, I want to live in this country and I want to just, I don't know, do whatever in this country, then I don't know, in my mind at that point, they are basically Polish, right? If somebody decides to live in Poland for the rest of their life, which I've met some people that told me that from different parts of the world, and in my eyes, they're basically Polish at that point, because, you know, what exactly makes them different at that point? Nothing. Who is this person from the...
As Michelle Wu, the current Democrat mayor of Boston...
Mayor of Boston. We might check out her stuff.
Boston put it.
You'll have to remind me. But that's... I feel like that's more for the serious political channel than the slop channel.
Every person, every human being has the legal right to come to the United States and seek asylum or shelter.
If everyone has the right to your country, then
nobody has. Okay, it's like it's like the animated movie. If everybody has the right to your country, nobody has the right to your country.
Not your country. It is everyone's country. Then it is not your.
Come to the United States and seek asylum or shelter.
If everyone has the right to your country, then it is not your country. It is everyone's country.
Okay, and let's go with this. Let's go with, if everybody has a right to the country, it's not my country anymore. It's everybody's country. Okay, so what? What am I supposed to do with this statement? Am I supposed to be upset by this? Like, this is another just empty slogan. Okay, so it's everybody's country now. So what of it?
And you have no special claim to it.
Okay,
Moreover,
I don't have any special claim to it. Again, so what? Okay, so I don't have any special claim to it. This is so stupid. Why should I care about some special claim over a country? What the fuck does that even mean, a special claim? It means it's a meaningless statement. Like it is such a meaningless statement. A special claim to a country. What does that even entail?
The advocates of mass immigration will just tell you outright that they wish to live in a colonized country.
What the fuck does that mean? Colonized by whom? Does Sargon of Akkad know even what colonization means? Which is kind of embarrassing considering that the British Empire was one of the biggest, no, the biggest colonizer of all time. And Sargon of Akkad does not even know what colonization means. A colonization is not when people from different countries come to a country and share equal rights with those who were in the country before. This is just idiotic. Vladimir says, yeah, imperial conquests are usually going so well. Look at nowadays Russia. It's bringing back a good old-fashioned imperialism and going to rule over the ruins. This is so stupid.
In which peoples from all over the world will be allowed to live in the West in unlimited numbers.
That's not colonization. That's not what colonization is. Also, so what? So what? Oh no, too many brown people. Oh, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this information?
If you ask me what I really believe about our country, I think the poet Tony Walsh spoke for so many of us after the Manchester bombing when he described this as the place. That was a poem that he wrote, and he said, some are born here, some are drawn here, but we all call it home. Those words are now in Manchester City's dressing room in Manchester.
Okay.
That vision of unity, of pride, of coming together speaks well to the kind of country that I want to live in.
As they tell us, this is what they really believe.
What's wrong with this? Like, you cannot just say this is bad because it's bad and I don't like it. What exactly is wrong with this?
This really is their idealistic vision of the future.
Okay.
They are attempting to live out the moral content of John Lennon's song Imagine.
Okay, it's a nice song and the sentiment is nice, so what exactly is the problem here? Well, what is the issue? What ails you, Sargon of Akkad?
And truly think that we would have a better world if only we were deprived of our historic patrimony.
What the fuck is a historical patrimony? There's no such thing as a historical patrimony. Again, empty slogan, which probably Sargon of Akkad will not even get into. What the fuck does that even mean? Historical patrimony. Of course, I make all sorts of Diablo references all the time. I should play more Diablo 1. Vladimir says, non-white's bad, we get it. It's just, what the fuck does that even mean? Historical patrimony. It's just, wow.
And they will attempt any kind of emotional manipulation in order to make you capitulate.
Capitulate to what? Also, it's rich coming from Sargon of Akkad, alluding to some historical patrimony, alluding to some special claim to a country, alluding to some special place within a country, and then claiming that no, it's the other people that are using emotional manipulation. So just come on.
Now, this of course leads to bizarre events in which one has to really squint to see how they came to these conclusions.
Okay, why do we have to squint? What are the conclusions? What's wrong with these conclusions?
Will in the world. For example, there is currently a by-election in a constituency in Manchester, and the most salient issue is one of demographics. The question of nativism looms large over the entire debate, with each candidate attempting to establish their personal credentials to being an authentic Mancunian. The Labour Party have decided to field a first-generation Greek immigrant who still has a very thick Greek accent as their authentic Mancunian.
Okay, this whole thing is very stupid to me, by the way. Nativism. But this is where we're at. This is where we're at when fear-mongering about the other is the dominant political tool right now. Not how to make people's lives better, not how to improve people's wages, not how to improve people's healthcare, not how to improve people's outcomes in life. No, the most important thing is how to, spot, how to detect the real native and how to get rid of all the evil immigrants. It's just ridiculous.
Which is just comical.
I am a proud Mancunian woman. I have walked the streets of this constituency. This is about Manchester. Manchester is a city united. We are rejecting division. I am so looking forward to going out on the doorstep and winning this for Labour.
Green Party leader Zach Polanski is attempting to argue against what he calls the politics of hate,
Yeah, it is politics of hate, quite literally. Yeah, you hate people that are different. It is by its definitionally politics of hate.
in which he attempts to erase the differences between white working class communities and the immigrant plantations that the state has put alongside them. Indeed, he
What?
describes any concerns about demographics as far right,
Yeah, correct.
focusing, of course, on the Reform Party.
This is it. This is the moment. It's the battle for the soul of our nation. You must not pit working class communities against racialised communities. In fact, Manchester has a really proud history of people of colour standing side by side with working class communities, often within the same community,
So what's wrong with this?
with LGBT communities, with any community that is othered. Because for any of us who come from minority communities, we know when they come for one of us, they come for all of us, and we will stand together.
So what's wrong with this? What exactly is supposed to be wrong with this? Tressader says, Sargon sounds like a smug prick because he is. Oh yeah, he is. What is wrong with this message?
Matt Goodwin is Reform's candidate, and he is raising valid concerns about immigration and naming tangible injustices which have been carried out in its name.
Okay, what are the legitimate concerns?
I'm in Denton today talking to local people because there are lots of HMOs in this area, homes for multiple occupants.
It is just, what are the concerns? Is this new? Oh yeah, it is new. This is from 2 weeks ago. Estelle, I can understand this question because looking at this video, it kind of feels like we have turned back in time to 2016 or something. But no, this is new. This is fresh Sargon of Akkad content. Karatsu says, on Manchester Greens are really close to the same amount of votes as Reform or more. Recent polls tell they're behind 0.2, 72 votes of Reform. Like, what was wrong with Polanski's messaging exactly?
Homes that are full of illegal migrants, asylum seekers and criminals. Homes that should have gone to the hard-working British people, to the people of Gorton and Denton, but they've gone to people who are often breaking our laws.
Who are the people that are breaking our law? This is stupid. Yeah, this is not a legitimate concern. I'm sorry.
Now, the Labour Party will tell you that talking about this is divisive. Talking about this is toxic. I can't think of anything that's more divisive than forcing illegal migration and HMOs on communities like this one. I can't think of anything that's more toxic.
I have no clue what this is. What this is supposed. This is just empty sloganeering. This is just empty fear mongering once again.
And treating your own people like second-class citizens.
All people living within the community are your people. What the fuck does that mean?
It's absolutely outrageous to me.
This is just empty. So in what regard treated as second-class citizens? What does that even mean? Exactly, Karasu Kafka puts it perfectly. Asylum seekers can be criminals. Locals can be criminals. What the fuck is an illegal immigrant? I'm assume they mean undocumented. Undocumented, a person that has not crystallized the legal status. I assume that is what this person means when they say illegal. Varim says, oh no, the LGBT community, the among with the non-white migrants is a bridge too far. True.
That companies like Serco are coming into communities like this, are using the British people's own money. They are using taxpayers' money to outbid the British people in their own housing market.
What the fuck does that mean?
Okay, how is that fair?
As we can see,
I don't know what that means. Outbid their own people in the housing market. This is such an easy thing. Oh, we cannot just build more houses. Look at those evil immigrants. It's their fault that there's a housing problem. Oh, why can't we do good healthcare? Well, it's because of those immigrants that just come here and, I don't know, ruin healthcare or a strain on economy. Why can't we do this for you, that for you? Well, blame the immigrants, blame the criminals or whatever. Katsu Kafka says, also, by the way, the amount of daily support as asylum claimant gets is around £7, if I recall. It was £5 before. Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. It's very ridiculous.
Battle lines are very clearly drawn.
No, they're not. The battle lines are very artificially drawn because it's so easy to draw those lines and to divert people's attention from what actually matters. Can we regulate perhaps landlords? Yes, that would be cool. Chasardis says rich people don't want to build for poor people when they make more buildings for rich people. Krasukavka says, do they talk about a recent case of a young boy dying due to conditions of the housing here in the UK? Can you link something about that? We could read it. We could read about it right now. This is just a very cheap distraction. The whole thing about immigrants, which is why it's used all over the globe. It's a very, very classic cheap distraction. You have a problem? Well, of course it's a problem with demographic because demographics is destiny. And the battle lines are very clearly drawn. Hello, Emily.
And wherever the politics of demographics is featured, it is always accompanied by a slate of angry communists whose protest slogans explain what the ultimate purpose of this kind of political activism is.
Oh, yeah, it's always the evil communists that are against it. Yeah. Whenever you don't like something, just slap a label on it. The label of communism. Okay, let's take a break to look at the case. Okay, let's take a look at the case of the boy that died because of the bad conditions. But yeah, it is exactly as John Doyle said in a video yesterday. The multipolar world order is just communism with extra steps. Anything you don't like is communism. If you don't like something, just call it communism and be done with it. Brilliant. Anything you don't like can be communism now. Because the word just means nothing. Devastated parents claim mold-ridden flat contributed to baby's death as government slammed for Awabi's law delays. By the way, I visited England some time ago and I rented an apartment with a person and we were quite shocked by the amount of mold that was in the apartment that we have rented. And I don't even think it was some private apartment. I think it was an apartment that was part of a company that just rented apartments. It's ridiculous. Like there was a boiler room and the boiler room was the wall was full of mold. Ridiculous. But, I was in Birmingham.
Akram was just 15 weeks old when he died, after spending his short life living in a flat deemed uninhabitable by an independent survey.
He was a playful, good baby. He was very playful. When he was months old, he started to laugh with me, and even we used to listen to music together.
Akram's mum, Ayat, spoke to LBC, holding the jumper he was wearing the night before he died. This is the room he was living in.
Behind here is all mold, and here all this and mold and dam, and on the wall, when you're raining, this wall, when you're raining, the water coming from inside. You put your hand, your feelings are wet.
While full answers from the inquest, due to take place in August, are pending, Akram's parents say they believe the condition of the flat contributed to his death. Akram's dad, Abdi Shafi, along with advocates, have been...
Hold on, what city is this? What city is this? I want to know, what city is this? Does it say what city is this? England is supposed to be a super advanced Western country.
Raising concern about disrepair to Notting Hill Genesis since 2023. The Housing Association tells us they carried out a full mould wash in September last year, but 3 months later, the independent survey found mould in every room.
The mold helped to kill my son. And the condition of the house. When you're raining, just not mold. Mold, yes, and then when you're raining, the water coming from inside. Damp, it smell strong like the air. The air is not fresh. The air and then 2 doors and 2 windows. Look, we don't have air.
Notting Hill Genesis say they're deeply saddened by the tragic loss of Akram. They say they're working with the relevant authorities as they conduct their investigations, and that no determination has been made by the coroner as to the cause of his death.
A part of me has...
Karasu says, London. Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah. A wonderful heaven of the Western world where those evil immigrants come. Okay. So let's not talk about taking away flats from locals. Hello, Simon Pierre Dubé. This is not news. I'm watching Sargon of Akkad. When often we are forced to take such shitty places. I live in such shitty place too, by the way. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But, who cares about that?
Again, it's just Imagine as a political program.
I unironically Imagine as a better political program than anything that Sargon of Akkad could come up with. Unironically. I'm completely serious when I say the song Imagine has a better political program than anything that Sargon of Akkad could ever come up with. I'm really astounded by the fact that Sargon of Akkad is showing perfectly reasonable statements and saying, oh, this is so... They really believe this. They really believe these things. Well, yeah, any reasonable person should. It doesn't matter if you were born here. It doesn't matter if you came from somewhere else. You have a right to be here. Like, this is not a unreasonable claim. Okay, this is not something that is unreasonable. And then Sargon of Akkad confidently says, and they are taking away your special claim to the country. Well, yeah, that's because a special claim to a country is just a ridiculous concept to begin with. Incub says, this is not fair. British-born citizens should have the right for their child to die in a mold-infested flat. Karasu says, Sargon still cannot even read the census of the UK, but he is attempting to use that as evidence. UKIP does not exist anymore. It had first transformed to Brexit, now to reform. Damn.
And this will all be encouraged by liberal politicians and pundits, who decry the methods of the communists, but agree with them on the fundamentals.
Who are the communists? What the fuck? I swear to God, Sargon of Akkad does not know what communism is. He just slaps the label on anybody that he doesn't like.
Yes, the political agenda of immigration is to dispossess the native peoples of the West from their homelands, and federal agencies...
What the fuck does that mean, dispossess the native people of their homelands? Oh yeah, when people that were here before are forced to live with people that come from other countries, that's dispossession somehow. I have no clue how that's supposed to work. I have no clue how that's supposed to... Like, I guess... If I live in Poland and a person from Africa moves in next door, I guess I'm being dispossessed because logic. What the hell? What?
Attempting to enforce the law of the land, such as immigration and customs enforcement, are worse than the Nazis for doing their job.
They're trying to portray Border Patrol agents and ICE agents as Gestapo, Nazi, and many other words.
Yes, do not compare ICE or Border Patrol agents to the Nazis. That's an unfair comparison. The Nazis were willing to show their faces.
It's true. Let's forget about the fact that ICE is just murdering citizens, okay? The natives of the land. Let's forget about the fact that actually ICE is now in the US murdering the people that Sargon of Akkad claims are being mistreated by the immigrants. Colonized by the immigrants. Karasukavka says, by the way, just for the note, years ago, Carl Benjamin streamed a vampire tabletop role-playing game run by Ark Warhammer. They were laughing about how they will murder communists. They played Nazi vampires, of course, just to understand what kind of a person he is. Yeah, he was a white supremacist. He openly and proudly said so many times. So, Sargon of Akkad is a very proud white nationalist. It's a point of pride for him. Zoshelik says, yeah, but Lucy, they are necessary sacrifices for the cause. Yeah, of course. The cause.
Immigration foreign migrant politicians will even argue that enforcing
foreign migrant politicians had to add that one.
Laws is a form of terrorism.
Right now you have masked agents who are terrorizing people across this country, whether they're in their home, in their car, out on the street. You have the loss of what it means to be an American in your own country, the sense of safety and the sense of self.
Which itself...
That's not... Okay, when ICE murders US citizens, it's not enforcing immigration laws. That is the most dishonest and disgusting thing that you could ever hear. Okay? Like when the male nurse was shoved to the ground and shot, that was the enforcement of immigration policy. That is such nonsensical claim that good luck defending that one, Sargon of Akkad. Good luck. Karasukavka says, well, for the longest time he was presenting himself as a classical liberal. Yeah, I remember those days, actually. I used to follow Sargon of Akkad back in the day, so...
Is an attempt to undermine the moral legitimacy of the very nature of the authority the state has over its own borders.
Yeah, there's no such thing as the nature of the authority that a state has. Okay? Again, another nonsensical statement. Inkub says, ICE is closer to the SI in all honesty. Yeah, it is. Karasukavka says, you should show me when he claims he's a white nationalist. I know he is. I mean, he does not directly say, I am a white nationalist. But he says, he rather will say, oh, I like it when white British people are safe in their homes and all those people outside of Europe come and colonize us. That's basically saying I'm a white nationalist for me, okay? Like, you don't have to directly say, I am a white nationalist. Like, for me, a rhetoric that says, yeah, you know, all the white people are being mistreated by all those brown people that are drained on economy. It's all bad for the native people that have a special claim to the land. That's basically white nationalism to me, okay? That's basically all but saying I'm a white nationalist in my eyes. Karasu says, but I think he is so stupid or was that he did not even understand he is one. Estelle says, maybe states shouldn't have control over their borders for anything other than military matters. Control over borders doesn't have to mean deporting anyone you want. Yeah, exactly. And also, control of the borders was... There's a really important reason why the current modern border control was even established to begin with. And that is because when the nation state was established, the purity of the nation also had to be established because nation was very clearly defined as a specific group within the borders governed by the state, and anybody that did not fit a certain profile of who a citizen of the state is had to go. And that is how actually we got the term ethnic cleansing, because ethnicities had to be cleansed of impure elements that were not part of the nation. And to sort of keep that whole thing going, you needed very strict border patrol in order not to not allow the nation to become impure. Basically, that is the TLDR of how we got our modern day border patrol system. That is it. You did not have such a thing before the nation state. You didn't have this sort of border patrol that Sargon of Akkad loves so much and claims to be natural. Like the makeup of a nation in a nation state, that is very much artificially created.
Pro-immigration protests, therefore, regularly snowball into riots, such as recent anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles, where the rioters were essentially in a state of open war over the issue of demographics.
No, actually. For the most part, the protests against ICE were not about demographics. They were about ICE brutalizing and killing citizens of the United States. Okay? I thought ethnic cleansing was a euphemism for the Srebrenica. No. Ethnic cleansing has been, like, I'm pretty sure that the term was coined for World War. What was happening in World War One? Where was it coined, actually? Because I read quite a few books about ethnic cleansings. Who coined the term ethnic cleansing? Maybe it was. Maybe Estelle is right. I'm actually gonna check it out. It was used in Serbia for the first time. Right, let's continue.
And when they get excited enough in a closed room full of their own supporters, left-wing politicians will just take off the mask and admit, yes, demographic replacement is a core plank of their political agenda. Spanish MEP and former Minister of Equality
Yes, it all goes back to the white replacement conspiracy theory for Sargon of Akkad. Always. It will always just go back to the white replacement theory. Always.
Arrow recently went viral for saying precisely this in no uncertain terms.
Quiero pedirles a las personas migrantes y racializadas que por favor no nos dejen solas con tanto facha. Y claro que sí queremos que voten, claro que sí, hemos conseguido papeles, regularización ya, y ahora o a cambiar, por supuesto. Ojalá podamos barrer de fachas y de racistas de migrante. Claro que yo quiero que haya reemplazo de racistas, reemplazo de vividores.
Oh no. Being against racism, no, that's not good. That's white replacement.
Trabajadora de este país, tenga el color de la piel que tenga, sea china, negra, marrona, con todas compañeras de este país.
Her express stated political goal is to use immigration as a bioweapon against the native non-leftist population.
Okay, what the fuck does that mean as a bioweapon? Now this is just complete nonsense, okay? Now this is just complete nonsensical claim. No, this is just stupid, okay? A bioweapon. Fuck off. Fuck off, Sargon of Akkad. Like, seriously? Bioweapon against white non-leftist?
Immigration as a bioweapon against the native non-leftist
citizens.
Population.
A bioweapon. What the fuck does that mean? Again, it's just ridiculous. A bioweapon. Let's see what Krasus said about borders. This is this is totally not conspiracy theory. This is totally not conspiracism, right?
La question des frontières européennes.
The question of European borders forces us to change the mental universe in which we think.
Mental dans lequel nous raisonnons. Lorsque nous raisonnons
when we think about European borders,
sur les frontières européennes, nous pensons immédiatement.
We immediately think of the borders of the European Union member states.
Aux frontières des États membres de l'Union européenne.
The traditional tale of the border of the European Union is that it is like a girdle that encircles the 27 member states, leaving aside, of course, the United Kingdom and Ireland, which have their own separate arrangements. But that it is like a pencil line that you can draw on a map to see what is Europe and where is Europe. These three maps give a vision of what border controls mean in Europe, which is quite different from the narrative which one normally hears from the European Commission or indeed from the member states.
Les frontières
the borders are not as linked
ne sont pas aussi liées
to the borders of the states as we might think.
Cela signifie
This means that practices of control most of the time are delocalized.
Signifie que les contrôles, la plupart du temps, sont délocalisés par rapport à l'endroit.
In respect to the location of the border, they follow the movement of people.
Des frontières. Ils suivent bien plus les mouvements des personnes.
These three maps show quite a different idea of what is Europe, quite a different construction of the meaning of Europe, where it is to be found, and how Europe interacts with the rest of the world as people, as human beings, as foreigners, and as migrants in the member states.
Deaths at the border. I'll be right back. Take a close look at this and I'll go to the toilet, okay? I'll be right back. We'll continue with Sargon of Akkad. I'm back. I'm gonna read some comments and then we can continue watching Sargon of Akkad. Karasu says, deaths at the border is very important notion. How open border the EU has been. It has not been open border at all, and we all know about the deaths at the border. Also, we need to see the statuses given to or retracted, because I see something entirely different from what Carl depicts. Because Carl depicts propaganda. Carl depicts conspiracy and propaganda, of course, naturally. A non-existent world.
disenfranchising them not only of political power through their inability to vote their way out of the situation, but dispossessing them of their own native country itself through the use of unlimited numbers of foreign people. We know the kind of people who...
Sorry, what?
But dispossessing them of their own native country itself through the use of unlimited...
I have no idea what dispossession is supposed to mean here. I have no idea what he even means by that.
Numbers of foreign people. We know the kind of people who want...
So what do you mean by the use of unlimited number of foreign people?
Too. On one hand, we have very vapid individuals who don't think very hard about anything.
Yeah, like you. Literally, we have vapid people that don't think very hard about anything, like you, Sargon of Akkad. And your audience, while we're at it.
And use their political opinions to signal that they belong to a certain kind of social group.
Yeah, that sounds like you.
Such as middle-class lefty women.
Such as right-wing native citizen. What the fuck? The lack of self-awareness is amazing. When he was crying about the displacement of right-wing native inhabitants.
Love abortion and immigrants and everyone, that's nice.
And on the other hand, we have hardline Islamists who understand that they're...
Ah, yes. The evils of Islam. Of course, we really are back. Like, none of these content creators have, progressed in any way since 2016, have they? They're just on the same grind set. They've been on the same grind set for years upon years, haven't they?
Numbers are growing, and they will, within their own lifetimes, be able to take over Western countries by sheer demographic might alone.
This conference/video was done 15 years ago.
Our numbers are massive. There's 50 million Muslims in Europe. There's more Muslims in Europe than there are in some Muslim majority countries. If all the Muslims in Europe were one country, it would be one of the biggest Muslim countries in the world.
I don't care.
That's the truth. If all the Muslims in Europe were one country, it would be in the top 10 or top 15 biggest Muslim countries in the world.
If only this meant anything. If only this actually meant anything. Oh wait, it doesn't. It actually means nothing. It's actually a meaningless statement. It doesn't even matter if it's true or false. It's just a meaningless statement.
It would be a big country. We're a big people. So that means we need to start acting like the Muslim community have to become the consequence. Make them think, okay, well, if we mess around with this community, what's going to happen? We have to start acting as if we have the upper hand, because we do.
It should be no wonder then that the far right has been rising all across the Western world for some time now, driven by concerns about the dramatic changes in the demographic makeup of their countries.
Or rather, riding the wave of populist rhetoric that they can use to gain votes. To be more specific and to be more real, okay? Being a far righter means that you can just forget about even promising to solve any of the real problems that people have, when you can just blame everything on the evil white replacement and immigrants. You can just do all these things and suddenly you're game. You're in game for politics.
And what this bodes for the future. We have the United States under Trump.
Okay, what does it bode for the future? What is it supposed to be voting for the future exactly?
And now in Britain, Europe and Australia, political parties which espouse a determinately nativist agenda are rocketing up the polls because people have become aware that the issue of demographics is being weaponized against them.
In what way? You haven't demonstrated any of that in the video. You've had 14 minutes almost to demonstrate how immigration is weaponized against the native people, and you have not done that. You have not demonstrated any of it.
And time is running out if they wish to even have a country of their own.
Oh my God, the rhetoric, the Elon Musk brain rot nonsense of Europe is not Europe anymore. You want your own country still? Then you have to hate your neighbors.
And when you look back at footage of Western countries from, say, a century ago.
There you go. This is, Karasu asked me, when did Sargon of Akkad declare himself as a white nationalist? This is where Sargon of Akkad right now declares himself to be a white nationalist, by showing you the beautiful footage of the past when you had only white English people.
It's hard not to notice how clean, orderly, and tranquil they seem when compared to those same countries today.
Interesting.
I'm sure they had their problems, but they had the unspoken assumption of demographic homogeneity.
Okay.
Which ensured that there was not a fundamental insecurity of the people in their own country.
I have no idea what the fuck that means. Okay. In Warsaw especially, I meet people of many different ethnicities. I don't have some fundamental anxiety. This is just stupid. And bear in mind, I was born in Poland, where actual diversity was not that big. There were not many black people in Poland where I was growing up. And now in Warsaw, there are a lot more black people in Warsaw. And you know what? Somehow I'm not very anxious, okay? I don't have a fundamental anxiety about anything. It's ridiculous. Stupid.
Whatever their problems were, they were resolved by people who ultimately belonged to the same group and lived in the same political substrate.
What the fuck does that mean, the same political substrate? First of all. Also one group, that's...
We can't say that about ourselves anymore.
Yeah, you can. Of course you can. If you're not a racist, you can. If you're a racist, you cannot, but if you're not, then sure you can.
And the more I look at footage like this, the more apparent it is to me that something terrible has been done to us.
Holy shit, this is conspiracy this is just pure conspiracy. Fear-mongering, okay?
The right, therefore, is finding its voice in the growing demands for the end of immigration and mass remigration of those foreigners who were allowed to settle in Western countries against the wishes of the mass of ordinary people.
Yeah, there's no mass of ordinary people that really cares about demographics, about ethnic purity the way that Sargon of Akkad does. Okay, there's just no, that's not happening, okay? People in their everyday life don't think, oh, how can I get rid of my fundamental anxiety caused by the non-purity of the ethnical makeup of my country? Karso Kafka says, also, by the way, London has had a long history of Chinese migrant workers, even during the time he gestures here. Yeah, of course. Because, yeah.
People want to return to a time of demographic security.
What the fuck does demographic security mean? What does that term even mean? It's another meaningless term, demographic security.
In which they can assume the unity of their nation.
Oh, there we go. There you go. And Sargon of Akkad had the gall to be speaking of artificial constructs, of things not being natural to history, when the national unity is something that was born in the 19th century.
What we are looking at here, then, is the political paradigm of the future, and it is decidedly ethnic and sectarian. There are
amazing.
Two primary opposing political ideologies. One wants mass deportations and remigration to ensure that the native peoples of these countries continue to possess their ancestral lands.
Nonsense. It's just nonsense. There's just empty slogans.
And the other demands mass immigration and the ethnic cleansing of nations of European heritage.
Okay, Sargon of Akkad does not understand what the term ethnic cleansing means very clearly, okay? Oh my god. Sargon of Akkad is such an uneducated idiot that I cannot believe this. Sargon of Akkad actually demands ethnic cleansing because ethnic purity demands mass remigration and deportation, right? That is the quintessential element of ethnic cleansing. You cleanse the ethnicity of all quote-unquote impure elements. What Sargon of Akkad is actually describing as the opposite of ethnic cleansing. And then he says, oh no, that's actually the ethnic cleansing. You're doing ethnic cleansing when you're introducing more people into an ethnicity. That's ethnic cleansing, according to Sargon of Akkad, somehow.
To bring about an extreme interpretation of the liberal ideal. This is the ground on which all political conflict will be fought in the future, and indeed it is being fought on now. Anything else will merely be window dressing. All other concerns will collapse into this paradigm, and each side will find itself sorted based on which group can either extract...
I honestly should be talking about this more. And I ironically think that this topic of bigots like Sargon of Akkad, this whole topic of immigration, of people being brutalized, dehumanized based on just coming from somewhere else should be discussed a lot more.
...resources from the other or prevent its own resources...
Like this paradigm, this whole conspiracy theories of battle for resources, battle for the land, battle for blood and soil. Remigration is not a term, by the way. Yeah, I know. It's a nonsensical term. It's how you... It is how you arrive at small children that were born in the US being remigrated into their land. It's just nonsensical, yeah.
...from being extracted. What a grim battleground our traitor...
And then people of like Sargon of Akkad will have the gall to say that leftists invent words.
...politicians have set for us to compete over.
Yeah, it's like this myth of limited resources, limited land, and the displacement of the native people. So that's been Sargon of Akkad.